World War I, 1914–1918, was a cataclysmic conflict that redrew the political map of Europe and brought an end to empires. Germany, a major central power, began the war with high hopes of swift victory but ended it in defeat, revolution, and political upheaval. The reasons for Germany's loss are complex, rooted in military, economic, political, and social factors. This article outlines the key causes of Germany's defeat in the First World War. 1. The failure of the Schlieffen Plan. Germany's initial strategy, called the Schlieffen Plan, was designed to avoid a two-front war by quickly defeating France through Belgium before turning to fight Russia. But this plan collapsed early. Belgian resistance, logistical issues, and the unexpected speed of Russian mobilization forced German troops to divert resources to the Eastern Front. The advance into France was halted at the First Battle of the Marne in September 1914, ending hopes of a quick victory and resulting in a prolonged, grinding war on two fronts. 2. The two-front war strain. Fighting simultaneously against France and Britain in the west and Russia in the east stretched Germany's military resources thin. Although Germany managed several successes, such as defeating Russia at Tannenberg 1914, the prolonged dual-front combat led to exhaustion of manpower, supplies, and morale. By 1917, the Western Front was locked in stalemate, and Russia's eventual withdrawal in 1918 came too late to turn the tide. 3. Naval blockade and economic collapse. The British Royal Navy imposed a naval blockade on Germany that severely restricted imports of food, raw materials, and industrial supplies. Over time, this blockade devastated the German economy and led to widespread malnutrition and hardship among the civilian population. Germany's attempt to break the blockade using U-boats, submarines, caused tension with neutral countries and ultimately provoked American intervention. 4. U.S. entry into the war. In April 1917, the United States entered the war against Germany, bringing fresh troops, industrial power, and massive financial resources to the exhausted Allied side. Germany had resumed unrestricted submarine warfare, sinking American and neutral ships, which enraged U.S. public opinion. The arrival of millions of fresh American soldiers in 1918 tipped the balance in favor of the Allies on the Western Front. 5. Failure of the Spring Offensive, 1918. After Russia exited the war, Germany launched the Spring Offensive in early 1918, hoping to win the war before American forces arrived in full strength. Initial gains were impressive, but the offensives lacked strategic goals and overstretched German forces. By summer, the Allies counterattacked with the 100 Days Offensive, driving the German army back and breaking its will to fight. 6. Weak allies and internal dissent. Germany's allies, Austria-Hungary, the Ottoman Empire, and Bulgaria, were weaker and increasingly ineffective as the war dragged on. Their defeats left Germany isolated. Meanwhile, on the home front, public morale collapsed. Hunger, strikes, and protests surged in German cities. In 1918, revolution swept across the country, with soldiers and workers rebelling, and the German Kaiser was forced to abdicate. 7. Superior Allied resources and coordination. The Allied powers, especially Britain, France, and later the US, had greater access to global resources, manpower, and colonies. They coordinated better in terms of strategy and logistics. Germany, while efficient in many respects, lacked the global network and faced increasing supply shortages due to both the blockade and war weariness. 8. Revolution and political collapse. Germany's military collapse coincided with political upheaval. In November 1918, mutinies in the navy, strikes in the cities, and mass protests led to the abdication of Kaiser Wilhelm II. A new republic was proclaimed in Berlin, and the new civilian government sued for peace. Germany didn't lose in a total battlefield collapse but rather surrendered in a state of internal crisis and exhaustion. Germany's defeat in World War I was not due to a single decisive event, but rather a combination of strategic errors, economic strangulation, loss of morale, political revolution, and the overwhelming power of the Allies, particularly after U.S. intervention. The Treaty of Versailles in 1919 would go on to impose harsh terms on Germany, planting the seeds of resentment that contributed to World War II just 2 decades later.